To some people, the ocean is scary.
And to others, it's beautiful. Let's find out why.
Welcome back, everybody, to the CNC After Dark podcast. I'm CH,
And I'm Crimson.
and today we're going to be talking about the ocean. Some people find it scary, and other people, they see some beauty in it. I personally find it scary.
And I kind of want to discuss a little bit about why people find the ocean scary. I was kind of figuring out, I was like, well, I know growing up, my grandma was personally scared of swimming, let alone big bodies of water that, she obviously wasn't able to swim, so she didn't want to go with. Um, and she actually told me ever since she was a little kid, her mom had an issue with one of her friends having one of her friends having a drowning scare. So my grandma's whole life is being raised, don't you know, the ocean or the pool or anything, you're just going to drown. And so my grandma had that giant fear of deep water until deep into her. And thankfully it didn't pass on down to my dad, to where it would cover onto me, because I absolutely love swimming. I love big bodies of water. I find it so fascinating. And I was like, well, in a way, it could be traced down to the environment. If you keep hearing so many bad things about it, why are you going to fear it? You hear about mountain lions, why they're so scary. Why are you not going to be scared of mountain lions? You're not going to go, but the little kitty, my grandma's friend was killed by a mountain lion, but it's just so cute. I'm going to give it little kisses all over its face. And some people cannot actually handle the pressure or just even the thought of the ocean or really any deep body of water at all, and that's going to be called thalassophobia. Thalassophobia is a persistent, intense fear of deep bodies of water, kind of like oceans, a lake, anything where you can't really see what is going on. It kind of sounds like it's really of a control issue, because you're in water, you can't really control how fast you move. If something comes up and touches your leg, you don't see what it is, so you're panicking. You're going to think something's going to grab you. And just being so used to being on land and knowing your environment to something that, we're not really evolved or adapted to handle with, I understand why it's scary. But as somebody who absolutely finds the ocean beautiful and amazing and, just absolutely mesmerizing, CH, I'm curious to why, you find the ocean a little freaky.
It's not that I find, the ocean itself scary. It's not even the creatures. I'm not scared of the creatures. For some odd reason, I just have a phobia of seeing planes and boats and other things like that under the water. It's so eerie, I guess. Seeing when you're in the ocean and you see videos. I just hit the mic. Sorry. And you go and you see people who dive, and they'll go into the ocean and they'll find a sunken plane and they'll be going in it. If I was ever in the ocean and I even seen a sunken plane, I'm immediately turning around and swimming back out. And I don't know why I'm like that, but I've always been like that. The ocean in itself isn't, scary to me. It's the stuff that doesn't belong in it, the planes and the sunken ships and all that. I just find that to be disturbing. I'm not really sure why. Maybe I was a pirate or something. Previous life.
Do you think it's a kind of a trauma based scenario or a tragedy, and you're obviously something went down here, it's full of bad energy, lives are more than likely lost because of this.
I've never really thought of it like that. Maybe I'm not sure. I think it might just be the fact that usually planes and the sunken ships, they're so much bigger, and when you're in the water they look even bigger than they do on land for some reason. So when you get close to it, it's just this giant object that has been underwater for years and years and years, and it's it's huge, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The Titanic, for example. You couldn't pay me to go within 500 feet of where the Titanic's at. And because when you go down there and you're swimming to it, well, first of all, I don't think people can even get down there because of the pressure. But you swim down, hypothetically, and you're there, and you just see this giant, like, massive rusted piece of metal that was a ship, and it's just like in front of you. That is my worst nightmare. As a matter of fact, sometimes I'll have like this is really weird, but sometimes I'll just be like sitting around like just thinking about something, and I'll just be like, "Oh man, what if I accidentally like teleported into the Titanic right now?" That would be the scariest shit ever. And it's like I don't know why I feel like that about like the planes and the ships underwater. It's just I always have. It's just really disturbing to me.
I think I'd be more scared of like how fragile it is. One big thing that I'm kind of like, it's not necessarily limited to just the ocean, but underwater caves. Yeah, you could have all the best scuba equipment you have. You could have a fresh oxygen tank. You could do all that, or even you're not the smartest tool in the shed, and you decide not have any special diving equipment. Maybe the most a snorkel, and you see this like little hole
I've seen people
on the
do
bottom
that.
of the reef, and you're like, let's see how far it goes. Okay, but what if it ended up like taking a fork and you didn't realize it? Or what if it made a giant circle and didn't realize that? Or what if you keep swimming hoping for an air pocket and an air pocket never shows up? Or what if you get stuck trying to squeeze through something, or something bites you, or you cut yourself on like a rock or a sea urchin or anything like that? So like there's just danger after danger after danger of just going into some random cave unprepared, or even if you are like prepared, you just don't know how long you're going to be in there. Something could always fall, uh, or you might come out through a different opening and maybe just end up somewhere completely like unfamiliar to you. I just think it's mortifying where it's like if you don't have any like train experience and it's not documented and you don't have the right equipment, then you're a TikTok influencer who needs their like weekly views. So they decide to go ahead and just go into this random hole in the ocean. And yeah, it works out, but how
Yes.
many people has it not worked out for? You're not seeing those videos because they, didn't see the other side.
Yeah, I don't know why people do that. I actually forget a lot. Not because like it's like a traumatic
It's
thing,
your
just
dementia.
because yeah. Like, why are these links purple? But I frequently forget that I actually almost drowned when I was a kid. And I'll
I
tell
had a
you
kid
how it
stand on my
happened.
back.
What?
I had a kid stand on my back at a pool.
Oh, yeah, I was like, I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I was young enough to not be able to like touch the middle of the pool because my grandparents have this pool, and it's not very deep at all. It's only like I think it's like 5 or 6 feet deep, and I was in on this floaty, and my grandmother was like outside the pool watching me. Well, I guess the floaty had like a hole in it, like a little pinhole. So when I was on it, it was like deflating, and I just remember I was like telling my grandmother about it, like telling her to get me off of it, and like as I said that, it just like flipped, and I was in the middle of the pool, just like floating there, and I started to like breathe in the water, and I was like, hey, I could breathe underwater. This is cool. And then like all I remember is like I just heard like a splash, and then like I got pulled up, and I was just like coughing up the water, and my grandmother just like straight up jumped over the side, and like I said, it's like a 5 foot pool, just like jumped over the like the rim of the pool, fully clothed, just like in and grabbed me out. And I often forget about that, but like yeah, my grandmother pretty much saved my life that day. And I forget about that a lot, and
My
it's not like
grandma
a
would
trauma
stand
thing.
there as I drown because she can't swim.
Yeah, I don't know. I always forget about that, and I don't have like a phobia of water. Like I said, the reason I find the ocean to be disturbing is just like the stuff that doesn't belong there. I guess you could say that well, no, a ship doesn't belong at the bottom of the ocean. It doesn't belong there. But yeah, it's just stuff like that, like the abandoned stuff. I get the same way about like abandoned buildings. Just something that's like abandoned, that's overgrown, taken back by nature. I don't know. I just feel like it's very disturbing to me.
Yeah, to me it sounds like when I think about it, it's kind of scary when I imagine the like energy about it. If there could be like any like spiritual tension there, Why was it? Why is it in this condition?
You
know,
just get out your
what made
different
it happen
colored
like
rocks
this?
and crystals, and you're just like, oh yeah, something bad went down here.
Yeah, and you walk in and all you're breathing in is just asbestos.
Yeah.
Um,
What? What did you just say?
how do you pronounce it? I don't remember how to
Are you
pronounce
trying
it.
to say asbestos?
Asbestos, yes. Sorry, man. It's, like I said, it's a long day. Um, now you guys know how to say that word correctly.
Oh,
So
maybe I'm
I'm sorry.
stupid as well. I don't know. Now you have me. Now
Asbestos.
you're gaslighting me. Now I don't know if I'm saying
No,
it
I
right.
feel like yours is definitely more right. But maybe you should listen to what I say. Maybe you should just listen to everything I say without questioning it. Maybe I am a speaker of a deity, and we should start a cult under the ocean.
Did you? Listen, we've been there and done that before, haven't? Don't you remember the last podcast we did?
Yeah,
Or no, the one before that. With
yeah. I just,
yeah, I
I
I
just,
am Jim, whatever the hell, and Charles Manson and Adam
yep.
Sandler.
Jim Beam. I am Jim Beam.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
nice.
um, but I mean, I could see like the fear of it, of like the ancient stuff and stuff where it doesn't belong. And like I was saying with the underwater cave, I just think it's like too unpredictable. Like I don't think I might just bite the bullet and check it out if I'm like around people that know what they're doing. But overall, I wouldn't necessarily like just go for it in my own like free dive or whatever. But I also want to comment on the pool or in the drowning and like the pool, like floaty or whatever thing you're talking about. Those things are like a death trap. So I grew up with like a pool in my backyard for most of my life, so we'd have a lot of pool parties. And when you're like swimming in the water, like walking on the like deepest part of the pool, and you try to kick up, and you're looking straight up, and you see the sun as you're about to breach the surface, and then this giant like inflatable bed just appears under you, and you smack right into it, and you keep trying to like move or push it, but it keeps moving to wherever you go. So you're like trying to take that last like little gasp of air, but you just are fighting the stupid inflatable thing in front of you, and so you like try to swim away, but there's like another float there, and yeah, it was pretty scary. But at a public pool, I was also just kind of swimming under the water, and I was maybe like 13. It was a bunch of other like pool kids, and this one kid's like, I never met him before. We were kind of cool talking, whatever. Uh, and I'm under the water, and he just thought it was funny to like stand on my back, and he like is just like standing on like my arms and legs, so I like can't move. And he was like a pretty big, heavy set dude, and I remember him standing on like my arms, my legs, and it was maybe about 3, 4 feet of water. And so I just was like just completely pinned. And so after a while, I'm underwater and it's getting hard to breathe. So I start trying to move, and he's like putting pressure down on me, and I'm like pinching him and punching him. And actually, my buddy Zach was there as well. And so I'm like thrashing the water. I'm like scratching at his leg. He's like pushing, and Zach eventually runs over and he pushes the dude off of me. Uh, and I got up and I was like screaming. I was like cussing him out. Zach was cussing him out, and the dude looked at us like we were in the complete wrong. Like he was just straight dumbfounded. He's like, "Why are you guys so? Why are you punching and kicking me?" I was like, "Are you just dumb? Or like how inbred are you?"
Was this
Like,
somebody that you knew, or just some random guy at a pool?
no, it was like a kid my age, like the first time I met him, and I was just swimming under the water, like, and he just came over and stepped on me. I've never seen that kid again in my life, but I like literally could have died right then and there, just in the pool. Literally, my apartment was staring at it, so it was maybe within 30 feet, 40 feet of my apartment door, and I just would have died right in front of there.
I did that to a kid once by accident. Not stepped on him, but like we were like dunking each other's head under the water, and I guess I held him under for too long, and he started to breathe it, and I was like, "Oh, my bad, man." We were really young.
I'm sorry I made it suffer. I'll remember that for the next one. Um, but being underwater is something that I think most people have done. Being in the ocean, I feel like a lot of people have been under the water in there too. But did you know the ocean actually makes 71% of the Earth's surface, and 95% of it's actually unexplored or unexplored? And if you take a ratio or like a scale with the ocean to space, which I find kind of funny that they did that in like a research study, because space is like theoretically infinite. So the fact that they like scaled it down to make it fit, we know more about space than we do the ocean. And a lot of the ocean exploration relies on like just electronics, rovers, equipment, sonar, because humans itself, it's just really dangerous for it to go under there. And it's also finding the technology that is also capable of withstanding the water pressure. The ocean is made of four sections, arguably five. It's the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic Ocean. Um, and so, with the ocean, like I said, it's very large, very vast. It covers a large portion of the world. It connects to different countries. It's going to hit a bunch of different cultures, religions, and a lot of like ideas about the ocean itself. And before planes and really just fancy boats were really a thing, obviously people would just, like pirates, they just go on giant ships and they travel, try to colonize, try to explore, try to go fishing. Um, and so a lot of history with humans were built around the ocean, um, about how to treat it, how to survive it, why it's so scary, all these like horrible monsters that live in it. Um, and there's just so many different things you can find throughout all these regions. But one thing I found kind of in unison with all these people's ideas of it is the ocean does not care about you. It does not care who you are. It does not care that you have a family. It does not care that you grew up and you are the 12th person in a generation of ocean fishermen. You are absolutely nothing to it, not even the slightest bit of an obstacle. And if you are not careful or smart, it will eat you and you will be gone forever. Um, if that isn't scary enough, or like already with the storms that could appear, uh, the potential of your boat capsizing, if you're getting a hole or anything, if you have enough resources to reverse, um, with the kind of the weather element of everything, the ocean also holds a lot of creatures that are very large and humongous and have a lot of teeth that also like to glow in the dark and exist several hundred feet down in the ocean where people have never explored. And a lot of animals in the ocean are actually discovered, uh, like the oarfish, deceased is when we first learn about them because they end up getting drifted in the ocean current onto land where we could actually uh, explore them and study them and learn about them. But it's so limited on knowledge on just the wildlife alone in the ocean because our equipment just isn't good enough to go down there and study them in their natural environment to get their day-to-day life. And I'm sure everybody's seen a picture of the blobfish and how it looks like this giant goop pile, but that's because it's actually out of the ocean and its body is mainly made of water, and so all this gravity is pushing down on the fish, and so it makes it look like this giant blobby mess. But if you keep going all the way down, the creatures do get weirder, but they fit the like environment that they need. And so one creature I kind of want to talk about is one that's been known throughout history. It was known to take down ships. Fishermen were scared of it. There's been fights with the legendary white whale Moby Dick about it. And I want to talk about the Kraken. The Kraken was expected to have over 100 feet tentacles that would like seek out boats and like willingly destroy loads of fishermen and travelers and merchants over throughout history.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I thought the Kraken was a myth.
Yeah, so the Kraken was feared for many hundreds of years, and we actually don't have a lot of evidence that it ever existed, so we're going to go off that it's a myth. But I kind of want to talk about a creature that would fit close to that, and I'm going to say that would be the giant squid. The giant squid lives several feet below the water, and we've only had so many cases through it. Actually, humans did try to capture giant squid, and same with great white sharks, and try to breed them. Most of the time, they'll just die a couple hours outside of the water or wherever we keep them inside the cage. Great white sharks would also just die because, no cage is like fit for them. But species of the giant squid have been recorded to grow up to 43 feet. That is 13 meters and weighed almost a ton. That's about 2,000. I think that's about 2,000 pounds. The giant squid is a very large creature that we only have so much recorded evidence of and so much data about it because it's just so well hidden. That it's, kind of has this like a cone-shaped head. The giant squid has 2 tentacles and 8 arms, not to be confused with the octopus, kind of like a circular body. They have like weird tube-shaped ears. It kind of reminds me of like Shrek's ears. And it has this giant, enormous eyeball, and it's actually one of the largest eyeball to body ratios in the animal kingdom that we are aware of. And so these tuna that actually live in the ocean as well, if you think that a tuna, I can promise you they are way bigger than what you think they are. Unless you've been like ocean fishing and you know what a tuna is, then you have a pretty good idea of how big a tuna is. They could weigh several 100 pounds, and one tuna could feed like a restaurant for a couple of hours. Like they're humongous, and you get so many cuts out of them. And the giant squid, it's basically a snack compared to it. They'll just pull it down and they'll use their beak to rip it apart. It's really only hunted down by certain whales. The sperm whale is a big predator of the giant squids. And even though the giant squid isn't necessarily an apex predator, it doesn't have a lot of predators actually going onto it. But because of how large the creature is and how much room they take and how much food it requires, there's not a lot in the ocean as well, because due to the environment that they live in, the ocean actually can't support that many giant squids out there. So I want to let you know that the giant squid is not in any danger to ripping down your boat or anything like that, because that would just be absurd. And why would it attack this giant metal structure or like wooden structure that doesn't resemble food at all? I just don't like I understand if a shark is more likely to bump across it, or an orca, just because they're dicks, but a shark is going to be testing it out. The giant squid has to actively go out of its way to go grab this tiny little boat that is going to get no value out of it.
It's scary and unknown. I don't like it. It's evil.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to throw like a couple of them. I'm just going to put a giant squid on you while you sleep. You're going to wake up and you're just going to have this giant eyeball bigger than your head staring at you.
I'd be alright with that.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I'm used to my uncle's eyes staring at me anyways. That was kind of a bad joke. I should watch my mouth.
You talk about that a lot. Are you okay? Did something happen?
I used the podcast as an outlet, but that was too much. I let my mouth slip. A creature that also has troubles keeping its mouth closed is the megamouth shark. And the megamouth shark is named after its mouth, as you can imagine. It's absolutely enormous. I'll put a picture in the video, but the megamouth shark is this giant shark. Is actually the smallest out of the 3 filter feeding sharks, including like the baleen sharks. They kind of have those like bristles in their mouth. And while I was doing research on these animals, all these videos try to make it seem so scary. It was like, well, the megamouth shark swallows its prey wholes. Okay, well, it eats plankton. A baby could swallow plankton, so it's not like that impressive.
How is he gonna steal the Krabby Patty formula now?
Yeah, and they eat like several, like hundreds of thousands of them a day. So multiple planktons are not going to get that Krabby Patty formula. How long do plankton live? Is it like I know they like are asexual. Is the plankton, the SpongeBob, the same exact plankton, or is it like multiple generations that just kind of carried on the legacy?
To be honest, I don't even know what the hell a plankton is.
So they're basically, I kind of describe them as like...
It's like an organism, just like a random creature that just lives.
Yeah, like you don't see them, and they're like, the ocean is infested with them because pretty much everything eats them, and they're responsible for emitting a lot of oxygen. And I kind of call them like animal plants, because they photosynthesize, and that's how like they get all their food and stuff in the ocean, which is that's pretty scary on its own. Like, why is an animal able to photosynthesize? And why is there just several, like, why can it give off oxygen? It's like an animal.
And it's in the ocean.
Well, yeah, it's like, what's the point of it? But if you get rid of the plankton, pretty much everything in the ocean is going to die, because there's just no oxygen to support anything. And like whatever eats the plankton is going to starve. So whatever ate that is going to starve as well. But the megamouth shark is, like I said, it's the smallest of the 3 filter feeding sharks. It can weigh up to 2,700 pounds, still not as much as your mom, and it can reach up to a length of 17 feet. And it's extremely rare. So yeah, it can reach lengths up to 1,700 feet, 2,700 pounds. But unlike your mom in the streets, it is extremely rare to see. Sorry, I think I sneezed. That was the weirdest sneeze I've ever had. It sounded like I made your mom joke, but that was just me sneezing. And so there's little recorded evidence of its life. We don't really know like how they are raised. We don't know the conditions they grow up in. We don't know how long they live. But I'll put a picture in the description. And basically, like, several people could fit inside of its mouth. Like a human adult could fit inside of this creature's mouth, and it's got like a bony infrastructure mouth, and it's, if you look up like YouTube scary ocean, that's going to be the creature that pops up in all the thumbnails. Even though they're also just not a threat to you at all, it doesn't mean that you're this tiny little diver in this ocean. And that's another thing about the ocean too. There's so many different layers. You could be staring straight in front of you, and if you ever seen Finding Nemo, I guess that's a good example where Dory and Marlin, Marlin or Merlin, Marlin,
It's Marlin, yeah.
was inside of the ocean, and they're looking around, and they're staring out into the distance, and all of a sudden this whale just comes out of nowhere and then swallows them and creates that whale scene. That's pretty much how it happened to you. You look in front of you and see absolutely nothing, and then boom, this 2,700 pound creature known as the megamouth shark comes out at you, and you're gonna shit yourself. The water is going to be brown after that. Very brown and nasty. And I think one creature that doesn't sound that scary, out of the two other ones that I named, this one you should honestly be scared of the most, because it's actually rumored or theorized to be responsible for the disappearance of Amelia Earhart. And I'm going to be talking about the coconut crab. And the coconut crab is an interesting one, because even though it's not like a gigantic creature, it's not an apex predator. It doesn't have bioluminescent capabilities. It doesn't really even spend its time in the ocean. But this crab could actually, weigh up to 4 kilograms, and it could have its leg span up to a meter. And the crab is so large that even Charles Darwin described it as just absolutely humongous and insane. Not word for word, of course. And then even though they're typically scavengers, yeah. And then he does a kickflip on a skateboard and rolls away.
Puts a cigarette in his
It's like,
mouth.
woo, Charles Darwin, evolution of badass. But even though the coconut crab are typically scavengers, these large arthropods are known to hunt baby turtles, birds, and even a couple rumors about them eating kittens or some stray puppies, which isn't completely unlikely, because these guys will eat pretty much anything. They climb trees, and their diets pretty much consist of fruits and vegetables, or fruits and nuts and berries for the most part. They like to kind of just scavenge and look around, and they don't really pursue anything. But if you go to the beach where they're locally found, there's just, dozens of them. And the best part about the coconut crab is all these berries and fruits that they're eating. I think it's called the sea mango, is one of their items in their diet. I don't know what a sea mango is, but apparently it's poisonous. And so what does the coconut crab do? It eats it, and then it becomes poisonous. So cool. Now you got a giant fucking crab that is willing to pretty much eat kittens, and now it's poisonous. Maybe that's when Charles Darwin flipped away. The pressure could reach up to 300 newtons. Newtons, wow. 300 newtons, and it could pretty much break your bone, or just severely injure your finger or whatever it grabs a hold of. It's not going to be able to crush your arm, of course, but that doesn't mean that you should not be cautious of it. There was actually a case recorded of one of the crabs climbing a tree and grabbing a blue-footed booby out of the tree. It crawled up there while it was sleeping. It grabbed the wing, one of the two wings, and crushed it, which resulted in the wing breaking. The bird and the crab got into a fight, fell onto the ground. The crab ended up getting a hold of the second wing, crushed it, broke that wing as well. And in the midst of the fighting, the blood of the blue-footed booby ended up attracting up to 20 more coconut crabs to show up. So you have about 21 coconut crabs just on top of this one bird, just absolutely ripping it to pieces. So yeah, they're attracted to the smell of blood as well. So you have this poisonous giant crab that likes to eat kittens that is also attracted to the scent of blood. Kind of sounds like my ex now that I think about it.
I thought you were trying to get people to not be scared of these creatures. You're talking about a bloodthirsty crab that can give itself a poison status effect that just walks around killing kittens. How? Yeah. In what world is that not horrifying?
The coconut crab you should be a little bit scared of. And one theory of why Amelia Earhart was a victim of this is because, she was never found. There's no actual factual evidence of what happened in her disappearance or even her remains. And coconut crabs are big scavengers that love to forage and eat everything. And I mean, they're tied to the smell of blood. So what if Amelia Earhart landed and she was still alive from the plane crash, or even just dead? You know, she's just kind of like sitting there, and there's going to be like that decaying smell, more or less, or like the fresh body smell, and things are going to be attracted to it. So it could be other creatures along with the coconut crab, but there's also a video of the coconut crab, uh, like taking apart a pig carcass that a bunch of scientists decided to put in front of them, and there's probably like 30 that showed up, and they had it scrapped in like a week. I mean, even the bones were gone for the most part. So it makes no like you know it makes no doubt that Amelia Earhart could definitely be a victim of these coconut crabs, either alive or deceased. And because there's no way she's alive now, I promise you. Like, even if she got away, then she's fucking dead. She ain't flying nowhere no more.
Yeah, I heard about the coconut crab theory, and I think that's what happened.
It makes the most sense to me. Like, you know, I don't get those theories where like somebody was dead and they, you know, wow, they disappeared. Well, obviously they're living on another country, just living their best life.
She flew over the Bermuda Triangle. She got abducted by aliens.
Yeah, and that's the Bermuda Triangle really kind of just died out. You know, you don't really hear about the Bermuda Triangle anymore.
That's because nobody escapes it alive except for Mr. Beast, apparently.
Yeah, Mr. Beast actually invented the Bermuda Triangle. And I was talking to Straps about this actually, and I was like, I just don't understand why nobody talks about it. And he was like, when I was, younger, it was a big thing, but he has this theory, because he's a smart clown, that it obviously like messed up with like the magnetics or like the compass and stuff, the like mechanics of the boats, so it ended up making them lose direction and ended up getting lost doing the circles. But as technology advanced and we have like satellite and all that stuff, just more technology to be aware of where we're at and navigating, it's not really as much of a threat as it used to be. So how do you feel about that, CH? Do you think that is true, or is it a load of bull?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the Bermuda Triangle, only that it's like supposedly a death sentence and you'll never get out. I think it's actually like something to do with like the Devil's Whirlpool or some weird shit like that. Like
stuff like that, like Davy Jones and
yeah, it's associated with like stuff like that. Like if you go in the Bermuda Triangle, you ain't getting back out. Like you'll just get stuck in a loop or something. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about it because like I said, I don't know. I'll never be in the ocean, so I'll never have to research it because I'll never be anywhere near it.
Have you ever been to the ocean?
No.
Huh. I've been there several times, and I'll tell you. So I've been to Florida and Alabama, and in Florida, I've been there for the like most of the time I've been to the ocean, and it wasn't bad except the last 2-3 times I went there. It had this like algae bloom called the red tide, and that thing is like known to like incapacitate people, take them to the hospital. It's been known to like kill dogs and stuff, and we didn't know that they're in bloom. So my dad and I took our dogs to the beach, and all of a sudden like our eyes just started burning, our noses just started itching and like leaking, and our throats were just on fire. And all the dogs are just sitting there and they're like gasping for air and they're coughing and they're wheezing. And we're like, what is going on? We're like, just got to the middle of the sand close to the beach, and all as we get a little bit closer, we just see red all across the ocean. I mean, there was more red than there was just blue, and it was just insane that it just put us down on our ass in like 2 seconds, and that was before we even saw it. So I haven't been there in the Florida beach for a while just because it was pretty traumatizing.
And what was it?
It was called the red tide.
And what is it?
It's an algae bloom.
Oh.
And they're actually super invasive, and as like temperatures warm and stuff, it's more ideal for the algae to thrive. So they've been a lot more common than they used to be, and it's known for wiping out a lot of native fish species as well because it's invasive, and it just pretty much sucks all of the like oxygen and nutrients out. So it's not killing just the fish, but it's killing the plant life as well. So overall, it's horrible. So then I went to the Alabama beach, and man, it was such a good time. It was like perfect weather. It was nice. There's like nothing wrong with the water. It wasn't too packed. there wasn't really a lot of rocks. 'Cause you're like, where would a beach be in like Alabama that really made sense? Um, but yeah, it was a pretty good time. So I would definitely recommend that too, unless you're a crazy party goer or obviously like spring break, and go to Miami, go to Florida. Um, but yeah, just stay away from coconut crabs. um, Another thing that I just think that's absolutely horrifying about the scare or the ocean. I know you haven't experienced it, but I'm a pretty confident swimmer. I grew up swimming all the time in different environments, and like I said, I've been in the ocean a few times. And I just my toxic trait is thinking that no matter how far I can go out, I can come back with no problem. And several times I can count on both of my hands how many times I go swimming. And my dad's like, "All right, just watch out how far you are." And I'm like, "Okay, I know." And so I'm like a good bit out, probably like 100 feet. And then I'm like kicking and swimming, trying to go back. I'm going nowhere. And so I'm going underwater trying to swim, and I'm still going nowhere. And I have all these people behind me and all these people in front of me, and I'm pretty much just in the middle zone by myself. And I'm here now, so eventually I do make it back. But it is just I mean, you get so tired, man, because you're just sitting and fighting to go like somewhere. And I eventually turned to the side, just kind of followed along, swimming like I think it's parallel along with the beach of the ocean, and eventually I didn't get back to shore. But at 2-3 minutes of trying, man, I was like struggling to move my arms. I'm like, well, this is it. This is where I finally die because I was a dumbass. Um, and it's just same with rivers too. Like, how many stories do you hear, especially like old fashioned books where like blue or the eras where like bluegrass is really popular, where little Timmy wanted to go play by the creek. Okay, well, be careful, little Timmy. And, he just like tries to go pick up a rock, or the dog jumps in the river. So they try to go grab the dog, and they end up getting swept under the ocean as well. And, like hitting their head on a rock. So they end up drowned. There's a chick from my high school who I found out passed away from they say it's weird. It's kind of categorized as a boating incident, not really. Uh, because they were on a river on a boat and they were all having a bunch of drinks. And at some point, the boat ended up flipping, and she ended up getting caught, like pinned against something. Maybe the boat was on top of her, and she ended up drowning from it. And I think she was only like 19 when she ended up drowning, which I think is crazy. And I think it's also crazy, like how unaware I was until like something happened. Like, how many people in your life have like passed away without you like realizing it? Um, and how many people aren't found because, once again, if you end up dying or getting lost in the ocean, what are the chances you're going to be found? Unless you get killed by Dexter Morgan and they find you all caught up in the bottom of the ocean. But you have to like be kind of a serial killer already to be cut up by Dexter Morgan. So unless you're like CH, you should be fine.
It depends on what season Dexter you're talking about, because toward the end he was just honestly kind of killing people.
Yeah, like any victims or whatever.
Well, not like any victims, but he would fly off the handle. You didn't have to be a serial killer for him to kill you at that point.
Yeah, I still have to watch the second season of that. If you haven't seen Dexter, definitely check that out. It's not on Netflix anymore, I believe, which is pretty lame.
Not anymore, it ain't. Nope.
But one thing I was really interested in growing up was like crab fishing, like king crab, like Arctic water fishing, because it pays pretty good, and it's like a lot of it's hazard pay. And I was like, excuse me, I'm like, why can't I do that? So I started watching documentaries and all that, and I'm like, oh, a lot of people die from this job because you go to the beach, it's all nice and hot, and the water's all warm. It might be a little bit chilly, but these Arctic waters, you can kind of relate them to the Titanic, and how most of the people died there as well. Um, is a big like wave will splash. It could be like stormy. The waves could be unruly, and a giant wave comes, hits the boat, knocks it, and somebody could fly off the boat. And within 4 or 5 seconds, they died of shock because of how cold the water is. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll wait on that job. I'll put that on like if all else goes wrong kind of job list. Um, I also just think it's really cool, like being out in sea all the time. I was thinking about it today. I'm like, could I be a pirate if it really came down to it? Because the adventures, the stories, and like the fighting and all that sounds cool, but also like there's no medical treatment.
Well,
Like
that
all your
ain't
food's pretty much moldy. I
that ain't like what pirates do now. Now, like pirates are like the Somalian pirates
was
that
gonna say it's Somalian
get gunned
pirates.
down by the military when they try to rob their shit.
Yeah, with all their like AKs and it's pretty wild. And I started One Piece. It's pretty good. I think only one raid happened so far though, but um, you know, the water, just the shock alone can kill you. And let's talk about people that like to. I'm sure everybody's seen a video of people being just in their like underwear, or speedo, or something, and swimming under the ice. Um, where they drill a hole into the ice, and about a few yards out, they drill another hole, and so the person is supposed to navigate underneath the super thick, several inch thick ice and pop up to the other side. Why? Why would you do that? Like, I get it's cool to say like, "Oh man, I did it," but like, you gotta have like super clear vision to know where you're going, and you gotta have people prepared to like be able to rip you out at any moment's notice in case you can't find it. And I've seen several videos where like the people end up turning the wrong way where the hole is. I've never seen anybody pass away from it, uh, because usually people that do that, they train themselves to be able to hold their breath for like a couple minutes underwater, 2-3 minutes, so they have time to go around and find it. But I would have no luck. Absolutely, I would jump in there, and then the second I jump in, I would lose sense of direction where I am,
You
and so
jump
I would
in and
just,
be like, "Why am I not moving?"
yeah, I'd jump in, and I'd be like, okay, where do I go now? And then I'd realize I'm dead and just sink to the bottom. Um, I actually did one of those. It was a fundraising for like couple high schools around here where it gets really cold where I live. You know that, and like, uh, it could drop down to like 4 degrees. We've had a couple times, so it was in the middle of winter, and we decided to do this. Uh, at our local lake, we cut a giant chunk out of it, and it went down to a certain amount of feet, and so you would walk to that, like walk out from the shore into the freezing cold water where the ice was just cut out, walk all the way to where the ice was stopped being cut, turn, walk to the left a bit, and then come all the way back out. And I was like, sure, I'll go ahead. My friend wants me to do it, so I show up and I start walking, and I mean the second, like, I'm like, dude, this is so cold, and the second it hits my chest where my lungs are, I'm gasping. I just feel every little bit of breath leave my air, like my chest. I'm like gasping for air. It's just so hard to do anything, and then you kind of start panicking because you're perfectly fine going from, oh, this is cold, to why can't I breathe anymore. And so I'm sitting there. They got like EMTs and stuff, paramedics around in case anything does go wrong. And I probably had about 40 people go before me. And the second, like, the air leaves my chest and I start walking, my brain goes to, don't let me be the one guy that needs to get pulled out of here and needs medical attention. I cannot be that one guy out of like 40 people already that needs medical attention. So I'm like sitting there gasping, wheezing, trying to get on my tippy toes, trying to expose as much as I can outside of the water. And when I'm moving through, one of the people wearing a wetsuit inside the water, that kind of like guides and like watches everybody, he looks at me and he goes, "Go underwater." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Stick your head under the water." So I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I shove my head under the water, and I mean, like, my brain is immediately frozen, and I just, like, am struggling to breathe all the way around. I still can't breathe at all. And when I get up, like, I just can't get rid of that burning cold feeling at all. And I like I had long hair then. I shook my hair. I like try to get as much water out of it as much as I can, wipe my face. And so I turn around and I started edge walking out of the pool, trying to put on a straight face, like that I'm not actually panicking and dying inside. So after we get out, I run into this giant heated tent, which we were all fine. But people do that for fun, man. People wake up and they're like, "Yeah, I got to make a YouTube video. Let me go ahead and jump in this frozen,
There's a guy who
lake."
swims with polar bears who can survive by turning up the temperature of his body with his mind. It's all a mind game.
I'm sure if I drink a bunch of alcohol, I'll be really warm, but at the same time, I'll probably drown because I'm too drunk.
Somebody actually survived the Titanic by doing that.
Really? They were just. Oh, you know what? I think I heard about that.
Yeah, he just drank like a bunch of liquor at the bar, and then it kept him warm, so he just floated there until rescue came.
He was like, "Damn, the rest of you guys, you call me an alcoholic. Well, look at you now, Beth. You ain't making it out of here."
He just climbs in the boat like, "Let's fucking party!"
My wife left me because of my addiction.
Hey, don't joke about that. A lot of people lost their lives, and it's very insensitive.
Well, maybe their wives ended up being on the Titanic and not making it out because she wasn't drunk enough. So, my wife left me because of my alcoholism. But guess what? I I'm fine now, and I'm gonna make it back, and I'm gonna have a story to tell. Um. uh, so I've never actually seen the Titanic movie personally, but how do you feel about uh, if Rose and Jack had enough room on the door for both of them to survive? Do you think that's justified? Do you think Jack was murdered, or do you think he shouldn't have been on the door?
I think a lot of people don't realize it wasn't the size of the door, it was the weight limit.
Yeah.
So, like, the door was holding up her. If he got on, it would have sunk.
Yeah, not to mention, like, you have to climb up it. So you
Yeah.
grab one side to pull up, you're basically flipping the bitch.
And not to
Um,
mention, it was debris, so it probably wasn't the most, like, stable
supportive.
thing. And, like, if he would have tried to climb on it, chances are it could have just broken half entirely, and then they're both dead.
Comment below if you would rather have Rose die if you were Jack. You would rather save yourself. Um, Plus, if you do get on the door and like you said, the weight. What if it pushes it just under like enough to where water just like gets all of your legs and your fingertips and stuff? Like you're fucked. Um, now
Well,
like
to,
you're
to
gonna
be
have
fair, I
frostbite and
think I
everything.
think the people that were completely submerged in the water weren't really thinking about like their fingertips. They were like, "Holy shit, it's cold as shit in here."
My gloves are wet now. When did that happen? Was it like in the middle of winter?
I don't know. I just know it was in like 1912 or something like that. I don't know like the month or anything.
So it actually on midnight, just before midnight on April 14th of 1912, is when the Titanic collided with an iceberg, um, with 1,500 passengers on board. Uh, and so, excuse me for that. That way I have a place to record. My fucking cat kept screaming.
I didn't hear anything, but we're at 53 minutes. You want to wrap up soon?
Yeah. 1,500 passengers were on board of the Titanic, and I'd say like April still like I'd say it's a little bit chilly. Uh, it was on the way to New York, and
It's
New York's
definitely
pretty
still
cold.
cold in April, for sure, especially in that
Yeah.
area.
So, and it's like right before midnight. So, like, I wonder if it'd be any different if it was daytime, if it'd make a huge difference or not. Um, but yeah, it was making its voyage from Southampton, England, onto New York, and uh, didn't they make a second Titanic that sank?
Uh, I don't know. I know that I heard they were building another one, but I don't know if it sank. I don't know. I vaguely remember hearing about like a Titanic 2, but I don't know what happened to it. I don't even know if it ever got built. I think somebody was just trying to fund it.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of mix-up stuff about it. Like, I guess to see like when it's supposed to be ready to go, and when it's supposed to like launch and all that stuff. But it's saying it's supposed to launch in like 2022, and so I'm pretty sure if it did launch, you would hear a lot more about it. But uh, I think we should talk about another scary thing that was a lot more recent, and I feel like we should talk about that recent submarine.
See, I was afraid that you were gonna bring that up.
Why are you? Yeah, the Ocean Gate submarine.
Because I'm a conspiracy theorist, and now I'm gonna have to give you my opinion on it.
Okay, remember this is a conspiracy. So This is not for sure, and we do not want to die. We are not suicidal.
The elites eat human flesh. They never got on that fucking submarine. It was all a lie. It was all a ploy.
I
They're
haven't
still
heard that one
alive. They're
before.
still alive. I'm telling you, they are.
You know, one of the
Hang on, dude. I gotta get my fucking
uh,
tinfoil hat. You fucked us now. Why do you have to bring it up?
the 5 people that were on board, one of the people on there, the mom was supposed to take the place of it, or the mom was supposed to go on the submarine, but told her son she wanted to go, or she wanted her son to go instead. And then the whole submarine, the Ocean Gate submarine, ended up kind of not making it. So can you imagine being that mom? That'd be horrifying.
Hmm.
And a lot of survivor guilt, like, my kid isn't around anymore.
I think it's messed up that people are just like making fun of them just because they were billionaires.
I was gonna say the same thing
Like,
because, like, even though they're rich, once again, a mom switched places with her son, and now her son
yeah,
is dead. Like,
the
there's still
survivor's guilt.
people, and apparently there was all these like tests and stuff. Like, it was basically foolproof, and they had all these like, oh no, if it fails down, here's a little safety net,
Yeah, they were
so
using a
nothing would go
PlayStation 1
wrong.
controller. There was nothing foolproof about it.
Yeah, they were so confident they're going to do a controller, and then the controller stopped working. Like, all their fail safes stopped working. It just started imploding. They lost communication, and it's like, why? Like, you think we're just gonna hear about that and just be like, okay,
No, I'll tell you why.
it's
Because
whatever?
they needed a convenient distraction for whatever was even bigger moving on behind the scenes. Because the elites eat human flesh.
Yeah, and that also happened around the same time as the Ohio flipping over, the whole like train explosion with all the bad stuff on it and the air pollution going to shit. All the fires coming from Canada coming over to New York, and how it literally was just orange outside.
You are being
Um,
deceived. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake
wake
up!
up, wake
Wake
up,
up!
wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!
Oh, CH is dying now. He said the truth,
I'm
and
committing suicide. Ah!
his body is failing eternally. All the GMOs that was put in our food is finally, it's like little nanobots. They're finally revolting and killing them from the inside out.
My vessel is deteriorating. I must find another.
But I mean, I just well, don't go to the ocean. Don't get anybody around the ocean if you're gonna look
Yeah.
for like a vessel.
The moral of
Uh,
this story is stay away from the ocean. Everything in the ocean is scary and bad and evil and gonna get you in the elites of human flesh.
yeah, so tune in next week while CH and I go with the elites onto a trip onto the Bermuda Triangle. We're gonna do, I don't know, maybe like a 48 survival challenge, 48 hours.
It's gonna be like a battle royale type deal.
Yeah, I was gonna say we eat whatever we catch, so it's just gonna be like cannibalization left and right.
Yeah, like the forest. Pretty much how it's gonna go down.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, the ocean's a pretty scary place. There's a lot of like misunderstandings about it. Um, and even though we didn't evolve alongside the ocean, um, like, you should still explore it. You should still be risky about it, and just don't be afraid when the little girl comes out and tickles your feet, because that happens to all of us.
Was that it?
Yeah. I thought you were gonna add on to that.
I honestly thanks for watching. Bye.